I used to think the worst thing a person could steal was money. Then Madeline showed me how easily someone could take your name, your dignity, and everything you spent a lifetime building. One evening she looked me straight in the eye and said I owed her the land my father died protecting, said it like it was already hers. That moment told me the fight had only begun. If you've lived through something like this, tell your story in the comments. The room hummed with small talk and clinking glasses, and I was trying to keep my shoulders steady when one of Madeline Grant's cousins barked loud enough for half the reception to hear. So that's him, the filthy cattleman. Heads turned fast. A few guests froze mid-conversation, staring as if I'd wandered into the wrong celebration. My jaw tightened. Before I could respond, Evan stepped between us, speaking low enough for only me to catch. Tomorrow changes everything. The words jolted me more than the insult. I leaned closer. What are you talking about? He shook his head. Not here. Just hold on. That was all he gave me. He didn't leave room for questions. The cousin who had thrown the insult smirked, already drifting back toward his crowd, whispering something that stirred more snickers. A few women covered their mouths as they watched me pass. They didn't bother hiding the judgment. I tried to refocus on the speeches starting near the band platform, but the laughter behind me kept swelling in little waves. Madeline's aunts crowded together near the centerpieces, glancing my way as if inspecting something they already disliked. One of them whispered to another, and she shook her head like she'd confirmed a rumor. Evan brushed past again, checking his phone with quick, nervous movements. He stayed close but kept scanning the room as though tracking someone. You need to tell me what's going on, I murmured. His answer was barely a breath. Please. Give me until morning. A waiter nearly bumped my shoulder while weaving through the crowd. My drink tilted a few drops, hitting the floor. The gesture drew more eyes, more murmurs. The sense that something had shifted tonight grew heavier by the second. Evan's attention snapped toward a far corner where two of Madeline's relatives huddled over a screen, glancing at me, and then back at whatever they were viewing. It almost looked rehearsed the way they didn't bother hiding it. You hear what they said the cousin from earlier called across the table, pretending it was a joke. Hope he doesn't track mud through the honeymoon suite. A few guests burst out laughing. My spine stayed straight, but my hands curled under the tablecloth. Evan stepped forward before I could react. Enough, he said. They barely acknowledged him. He turned to me again, eyes sharp with something I hadn't seen in him for a long time, fear mixed with resolve. You shouldn't let them talk to you like that, he whispered. Tell me what's going on, son. His throat worked once. Morning, he repeated. I promise. More chairs scraped. Another wave of whispers rolled across the venue. Even the band seemed to falter, chords thinning while the crowd shifted its attention between us and the bridal party. Madeline was somewhere near the photo backdrop, surrounded by relatives. Not once did she look my way. Evan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, stiffened, and muttered, I need to take this. Before I could reach for his arm, he backed away, weaving between tables with purpose that didn't match the celebration. The call pressed him forward, and he disappeared through the side exit without a single look back. I stood there, voices rising around me, every whisper landing like another tap on a bruise that hadn't fully formed yet. Evan's voice carried across the parking garage before I even reached the curb. He paced near a concrete pillar phone, pressed tight to his ear, words clipped and tense. Don't call me again. I said, stop. Do you hear me? He ended the call with a sharp tap and stood still for a moment, shoulders rising and falling, as if he were bracing for another blow. When he finally noticed me approaching, he looked like someone cornered mid-storm. What was that about? I asked. He rubbed his forehead, searching for the right place to start. I've been tracking them, Dad. tracking who his answer dropped fast. Madeline's family. For 3 weeks. The statement winded me more than the insult back in the ballroom. You did what they're not, who you think. There are meetings they didn't want anyone hearing, arguments about the highway expansion, talk about getting you to sign off on portions of the ranch, not suggestions, plans. He stopped pacing and shoved his hands into his pockets, agitation rolling through every movement. I should have told you sooner, but I needed to be sure. The air felt thick, not because of the temperature, because nothing about his words sounded exaggerated. Something in him had changed, sharpened. It wasn't the kind of fear you pick up from gossip. It was the kind you earn from seeing too much. A voice came from behind us. Well, look who's still here. Lauren Bates stepped out from between 2 parked SUVs, holding her keys. She had that same steady presence she carried in high school. Firm, observant, never easily rattled. David, she said, are you all right? Working on it? I answered, glancing toward Evan. She caught the exchange and moved closer. I heard a bit. You two okay? Evan shifted, reluctant to involve her, but she held his gaze as if she'd been expecting something like this all along. Whatever you're dealing with, she said, don't underestimate the land issue. Prices are spiking all over Hill Country because of that new highway. People are getting desperate. Evan nodded. That's exactly the problem. They're after the ranch. Not the wedding, not Dad, the land. Lauren didn't blink. Then he needs to listen to you. Someone cleared his throat. A man in a tailored vest, one of Madeline's uncles, strode toward us with deliberate steps. He looked annoyed simply seeing us together. Is there a problem here? He asked, directing the question at me as if Evan weren't standing inches away. No problem, I said. Just a conversation. Funny, he replied, because it looked heated from up there. Folks are wondering why you two can't keep it together for one night. Evan straightened. We're not doing this with you, the uncle smirked. Touchy. Guess the stress is getting to the Holcombs. Lauren stepped between him and us, her voice calm but pointed. That's enough. Leave them alone. He scoffed and walked off, muttering something about drama before the vows. His footsteps echoed across the ramp until he reached the elevator and disappeared. Evan exhaled slowly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. They're not even trying to hide the hostility. Lauren folded her arms. Tell him everything, Evan. He nodded once, then faced me fully. They're planning to push you into signing over partial rights to the southern pasture. I heard them say it. They were arguing about the timing, something about needing it done before the state releases compensation details for the new route. How did you hear all this? I asked. His eyes flickered, unsure whether to admit it. I recorded some of it. Not all. Enough to know they aren't just talking. A memory flashed my ex-wife watching me scrape mud from my boots, saying I'd never be more than a ranch hand pretending to own things too big for him. Strange how old words return at the worst moments. Lauren watched me carefully. This isn't paranoia, David. You know how these land grabs work? People get bold when they smell opportunity. Evan lifted his phone as if weighing something. Please meet me at the ranch in the morning. Early. I'll show you everything then. I can't explain all of it out here. Why not now? I asked. He took a step back. Because you need to see it, not hear it. And I'm late for something I can't skip. What are you mixed up in, Evan? He opened his mouth, closed it again, then shook his head. Morning, he repeated. Just give me until morning. Lauren rested a hand on my arm. Let him go for now. Evan backed toward the exit ramp phone, buzzing again. He checked the screen, muttered something under his breath, and started jogging toward his truck. Sunrise, he called out. I'll explain everything then. He climbed into the cab before I could question him further. The engine roared, tires rolled, and the truck disappeared down the ramp, leaving me standing between Lauren's concerned stare and the faint echo of Evan's words looping in my head. Evan was already on the porch when I stepped out, laptop open, eyes tight with focus. He didn't look up as I approached. The tension around him felt charged, like he'd been rehearsing what to say. "We need to start," he said. "What's so urgent?" He turned the laptop toward me without another word and hit play. Madeline's voice poured out, first sharp and calculated. "He's predictable. Just get him to sign it. After the highway numbers come out, we move him to assisted living and finalize everything." Her father responded low and matter-of-fact. "He won't fight back. Men like him never do." My chest tightened. Evan watched me instead of the screen, waiting for the reaction he feared. "Stop it," I muttered. He paused the recording. She said, "assisted living dad." They weren't talking about later in life. They meant next month. A wave of heat crawled up my neck. The idea that someone I planned to marry discussed my future like a business move, like removing a fence line, hit harder than any insult from the night before. "How long have you had this?" I asked. "Long enough to know this isn't confusion." They planned everything. Guilt pressed in. Part of me wondered how many signs I'd ignored. Maybe I'd been too eager to believe someone finally wanted a life with me that wasn't transactional. Evan opened a second folder on the screen. "There's more." "I need a minute," I said. "No. You need to hear the rest before you start making excuses." He clicked on another file. It wasn't audio this time, just a list of transactions. Charges from stores we'd never visited. Cash advances. Wedding deposits that dwarfed anything we agreed on. She told you her brand deals covered most of the event, he said. That was a lie. She maxed her cards and took out 2 private loans. Guess who they expected to clean it up? My throat felt dry. He kept going. "Look at the dates." They started these plans the same week she brought up the joint property agreement. I stared at the initials on the documents, tracing each number until they blurred. Someone had used my name as leverage before the vows were even exchanged. A car rolled up the driveway. Lauren stepped out with a rolled map under her arm and a binder pressed to her chest. She took one look at our faces and didn't waste time. "Show me everything," she said. Evan replayed the first recording. She listened without flinching, then set the binder on the porch table. "These are the county maps," she explained. "If you had married her and she pushed for shared ownership, any improvements or expansions would become marital assets. Under Texas law that creates openings for claims even without your consent." Evan folded his arms. "Told you." Lauren pointed to a section of the map. "The southern edge touches the proposed expansion route. If the state buys any portion, the payout depends on sole ownership. If she got rights, even symbolic ones, it would complicate everything." Hearing it laid out so plainly made something tilt in me. Part of my mind insisted Madeline might have been manipulated by her father. Another part whispered that I didn't want to believe I'd chosen wrong again. "Maybe she didn't know what he meant," I said quietly. Evan jerked back as if I'd slapped him. "You're still doing it, still giving her the benefit of the doubt after hearing her voice plan to get rid of you." "I'm saying people can be pushed, Dad." "Stop." His tone cut through me. "You think she got dragged into this? She bought the planner for the wedding she expected you to pay for. She lied about her debts. She let her family trash you every chance they got. And you're standing here asking if she's misunderstood?" Lauren stepped closer. "David, listen. Predators rely on exactly this kind of hesitation. They bank on patience, generosity, and silence. That's how they win." The truth in her words stung. Memories from my first marriage surfaced, moments when I let criticism go unanswered, convinced endurance was the noble choice. It took years to realize endurance can look a lot like surrender. Evan's voice dropped lower. There's one more thing. He clicked on the final file. Madeline's laugh spilled out, high and dismissive. He'll cover everything. He's our last investment. If this doesn't work, we're out of options. The word investment echoed long after the clip ended. Evan shut the laptop, slowly steadying himself. She wasn't pushed into anything. She chose it. All of it. Lauren rested her notes on the porch railing, giving me space while still watching carefully. Evan took a step back from the table. You asked for the truth, he said. Here it is. He lifted the laptop again, as if preparing more evidence, fingers poised above the keyboard, waiting for my response. Lauren's office sat above a small insurance agency in San Marcos, the kind of place where the floor creaked when you shifted your weight. Evan spread his laptop on her conference table before she even hung her coat. He organized the audio files with practiced determination, as though any delay might give Madeline room to strike first. Lauren scanned the file names, then lifted her gaze. Before we dig in, she said, you need to understand something. If Madeline suspects Evan recorded her without consent, her family will move fast. They'll try to flip this into a privacy violation. Evan bristled. She's the one planning crimes. She is, Lauren replied. But criminals file countersuits all the time. Doesn't mean they win, but it can make your life hell. She clicked on one clip and listened briefly, then stopped it with deliberate care. These might be admissible depending on how Evan gathered them, she said. But if they claim you two installed anything on their property or intercepted calls, that's another story altogether. No one broke into anything, Evan snapped. Lauren held up a hand. I didn't say you did. I'm telling you how they'll twist the narrative. My stomach sank. Every step forward revealed a new cliff's edge. A knock hit the door. Lauren's assistant walked in with her phone pinched between two fingers. This just came in, she said. Urgent email from Madeline Grant. The message loaded on the screen. Evan leaned over my shoulder as I read. Madeline had formally terminated the engagement, effective immediately. That part I expected. What followed made my fingers twitch. She demanded reimbursement for every wedding cost venue catering decor outfits deposits. Numbers stacked into the tens of thousands. Then a line that felt like a slap compensation for emotional damages and public embarrassment. Evan let out a bitter laugh. She's unbelievable. Lauren read the email twice. They want you overwhelmed, she said. If you panic, you'll pay something just to make it go away. A dull ache crawled across my chest. The whole thing felt like I'd stepped into a trap with no idea how deep it ran. Evan opened another tab. It gets worse, he said. He showed us a flood of new posts spreading across social media. Madeline's family had started a campaign within the hour of sending the email. Claims that I pressured her into an engagement she never felt safe in. Comments from strangers speculating about my temper, my money, the ranch. Lauren rubbed her temple. This kind of smear can snowball. If she files anything in court, now the public pressure may influence how officials treat the case. Not legally, but socially. And your name is tied to a business. Reputation matters. My palms warmed. Losing the ranch's respect felt more threatening than losing the money. Land is tied to identity in a way most people don't understand. You don't guard it because it's profitable. You guard it because someone else did before you. Evan wasn't done. She posted a picture from last night too, he said. Cropped it to make you look drunk. I wasn't drunk. She knows that. Doesn't matter. Lauren leaned forward. She's setting the stage. If she pushes a civil suit, she'll say she fled an unsafe situation, that you retaliated, that Evan stalked her family. Stalked? Evan scoffed. I recorded them plotting a crime. Lauren looked at me instead of him. You're in a vulnerable place right now. Doesn't matter that the truth is on your side. They're running a narrative because they think you'll avoid confrontation. That hit harder than her legal warnings. She was right. Years of keeping the peace had made me predictable. Evan closed the laptop with a firm clap. We need to file first. Take the advantage. Lauren nodded. That's my recommendation too. But before we do, you need to see this. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope addressed to me. She slid it across the table. A courier dropped it at my receptionist's desk 10 minutes ago, she said. It's from their attorney. Evan tore the flap before I could react. A stack of printed pages slid out. The first line stopped me cold. They claimed I verbally agreed to transfer part of the southern acreage to Madeline upon engagement. A good faith arrangement, they called it, something I supposedly promised during a dinner that never even happened. Evan pushed his chair back so hard it scraped the floor. They're certifiable, he said. They'll say anything. Lauren skimmed the rest. They're demanding you surrender the land within 30 days or face immediate litigation. The room seemed to tilt slightly, not from shock had passed hours ago, but from the realization that they weren't improvising. This had been prepared, anticipated. They'd counted on me not fighting back. A low hum settled in my ears as I stood. My hand hovered above the letter, not quite touching it. That document represented the exact nightmare Evan had warned me about, and still part of me wanted to believe I'd misread everything. Lauren broke the silence. David, what do you want to do? Her question didn't land. My focus narrowed to the line about surrender of acreage. The phrasing was cold, calculated, and final, like someone had tried to rewrite history on my behalf. Evan moved around the table, picking up the envelope again, and the paper rustled as he flipped to the next page. By late afternoon, Evan and I sat at the kitchen table with Lauren's documents spread across the wood surface. He clicked through the files she emailed, reading each note twice. My eyes drifted over the pages without absorbing anything. Words blurred, agreements, property rights, misrepresentation. All of it pointed to one thing: I'd let this grow under my own watch. Evan tapped a paragraph. Dad, they can't prove any verbal agreement. You didn't promise her land. I swallowed hard. No. But I never stopped her family from talking like they already owned it. The realization struck deeper than any accusation from Madeline's relatives. Years of stepping back, avoiding conflict, letting others decide the tone, it all gathered in a tight knot under my ribs. A man can get used to being overlooked. Sometimes, he even helps it along. Evan opened another folder, but before he spoke, a shrill voice floated through the open window. David, please, just come out. I need to talk to you. We both turned. Out beyond the pasture fence, just beyond the gate, a camera crew crouched around a small tripod. Madeline stood front and center, mascara-streaked hands shaking for effect. Her cousin held a phone aimed at her while another relative paced in the background. Evan froze. Oh, you've got to be kidding. Madeline pressed her forehead dramatically with one hand. He abandoned me before the wedding, she sobbed to the camera. After everything I sacrificed. Please, someone tell him to speak to me. 2 cars slowed on the county road, their passengers gawking at the commotion. A few people stepped closer, unsure what they were witnessing but eager to be part of something. Evan muttered, "She's staging a crisis." I stood from the table. My body moved before my judgment caught up. I'll go set this straight. Don't, Evan said quickly. She wants footage. I'm not letting her block the entrance to my home. But once outside, steps from the gate, her cousin immediately swung the camera toward me. There he is, he shouted. The man who left her with the bills. Madeline sniffled loudly, clutching her chest. David, please, just tell me what I did wrong. Nothing about her tone carried the exhaustion or tenderness of a woman blindsided by heartbreak. It was theater-planned, rehearsed, and weaponized. I raised a hand. Madeline, stop this. You know none of that is true. Her cousin talked over me. Say it louder, David. Tell the world why you humiliated her. Evan stormed toward us, fists clenched. Turn that off, you have no right to. I grabbed his arm before he reached the fence. Don't, I said, quietly. They want a reaction. Madeline heard it and fell into another wail. He won't even look at me, after I gave him everything. A woman who'd parked nearby murmured to her friend, poor girl. He should at least talk to her. The shame hit fast. Not because of guilt, because strangers were building judgments on a lie broadcast from my front gate. My phone rang. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. Get back in the house, she said before I could answer hello. Now, do not engage them. Anything you say will be clipped and edited. She's lying about everything I hissed. I know, Lauren replied. But she's running a public relations ambush. If a clip goes viral, you'll be defending yourself in 2 courts, legal and public opinion. Go back in. Evan tugged at my sleeve. Dad, come on, let's go. Madeline's cousin zoomed in on my face. Look at him. Won't even apologize. Evan yanked against my arm again. Let it go, Dad. Please. My pulse hammered. Every instinct said confront the lie, bury it under the truth. But stepping closer meant stepping into their frame, into their story. I backed away. Madeline's voice rose behind me. You're just leaving, after all I did, after everything I lost. Another car slowed to watch. Back in the kitchen, Evan kicked the leg of a chair hard enough to shake the table. She's ruining your name. She's doing it on purpose. I steadied my breath. This is not the way. You keep saying that he snapped. Meanwhile, she paints you like some monster online. The email alert chimed on my phone. Another message from Madeline's attorney. I opened it. A threat. If I didn't comply with the land transfer request, their family would release documentation proving I manipulated her emotionally and financially. Fake evidence. Manufactured leverage. Evan read over my shoulder. They're bluffing. Are they? I asked. His jaw flexed. Even if they aren't, we have the real recordings. He started scrolling through his audio files again. Every few seconds he replayed snippets, hunting for something, anything. Then he stopped abruptly. Dad, wait. He replayed a small portion. A detail in the background, barely noticeable the first time, made Evan stiffen. That wasn't there before, he said. What do you mean, it's a voice, another person, someone we never identified? He slammed the laptop shut and grabbed his keys. We're going to Lauren's, now. I rose from the table as he hurried towards the door, the sound of tires crunching gravel before either of us spoke again. Lauren kept the door unlocked for us, a stack of case files pushed aside to clear room on the conference table. Evan placed the laptop down without pausing to breathe, fingers tapping until he located the audio segment he'd flagged earlier. Listen, he said. He rewound 5 seconds, then pressed play. Madeline's voice slipped through the speakers, low and unguarded. Once Harris confirms the number, we move. He already paid me ahead. So stop worrying, her father replied with a grunt. Don't get sloppy. Evan froze the clip and looked straight at Lauren. That name wasn't in any other recording. I checked twice. Lauren leaned over the keyboard. Spell it, Harris. She opened her laptop and began typing with swift, practiced strikes. A list of names populated her screen, each tied to various state departments. Here she said, Mark Harris, Texas Department of Transportation. Oversight for land acquisition on the Hill Country expansion. Access to projected payouts. Evan let out a stunned breath. So it's real. Lauren nodded slowly. If Madeline wasn't exaggerating, she just linked herself to a public official in charge of confidential compensation data. That's not petty scheming. That's coordinated asset theft on a state level. My pulse kicked. Hearing it from Lauren made the possibility more tangible, yet doubt crept in from habit. She could have been bluffing, I said. People say things they don't mean. Evan's shoulders tensed. Dad. Come on. I'm saying maybe she was throwing that name around to impress her father? You know how she talks when she wants to sound don't defend her, Evan snapped. Not after everything we heard. Lauren slid the map toward me, calm but firm. Even if she exaggerated, the context is damning. You have enough to prove malicious intent, and possibly conspiracy if Harris actually gave her information. A sharp ping chimed from my phone. Another email. I didn't want to look at it, but Evan snatched the device, scanned the screen, and swore. It's her again. She wants you to issue a public apology to restore her reputation so the situation can resolve amicably. Lauren extended her hand. Let me see. Her expression hardened as she read. This is coercive framing, she said. She's laying groundwork for litigation. She's trying to bait you into acknowledging fault. Evan paced the length of the room. She's cornering him. Every hour she pushes harder. He halted suddenly. Let's release the recordings. All of them. Tonight? Put them online and cut this off at the knees. No, Lauren said immediately. If you publish anything, we lose chain of custody integrity. Defense attorneys will argue the clips were edited, tampered with, taken out of context. You'll ruin your own case. They're already ruining his life, Evan shot back. And you're about to give them exactly what they want, she replied. Impulsiveness makes you vulnerable. Evan sank into a chair, gripping the edges. They've turned our whole town against him. Neighbors are sharing her posts. People think he dumped her like trash. Lauren rested a hand on the table. Reputation can be rebuilt. Evidence once compromised cannot. A sudden thud echoed outside the office, followed by the crunch of tires. Evan shot up. What now? Lauren moved to the window. A patrol car, she said. Stay here. The officer stepped out, checked the street with a flashlight, then walked toward the building. Evan stiffened. What if she reported us? What if she told them I hacked her or something? She can allege anything, Lauren replied, but allegations don't equal proof. And no one is entering this office without a warrant. We waited while the officer spoke briefly to someone downstairs, then returned to his car. Lauren exhaled. Someone called about a disturbance near this block. Probably unrelated. Still, this shows the atmosphere around you is escalating. Evan rubbed his arms as if the tension had seeped under the skin. So they're tightening pressure. And we're supposed to sit still. We're supposed to be smart, Lauren corrected. Recklessness is what they're hoping for. Her attention shifted to me. David, you have more than enough to file a formal complaint, but I need your authorization to initiate proceedings. Without it, I can't shield you or Evan. The room became strangely still. Part of me wanted to sign immediately to put an end to the humiliation. Another part hesitated, the old instinct to avoid direct conflict, whispering that escalation might make things worse. Evan sensed the hesitation. Dad, he said softly. They're not stopping. You saw today. You saw her. His voice cracked just once. Not from fear for him, anger always came first, but from the weight of watching me take blow after blow. Lauren slid a single document forward. A simple authorization form. Nothing dramatic, nothing irreversible. Just the first step in reclaiming control. Sign it, she said. Let me file on your behalf. You don't have to fight them alone. My hand hovered above the pen. It wasn't courage or pride guiding me. It was exhaustion, the kind that grows when you've spent years letting the world decide your battles. I picked up the pen as Evan shifted closer, waiting breath held tight. Lauren walked beside me up the steps of the Austin church, her voice steady as she reminded me why I had to be here. If you don't show, she said, they'll claim you ran off in shame. This appearance protects you more than it risks anything. Evan followed close, backpack slung over one shoulder, carrying the laptop and hard drive like a medic carrying field gear. He didn't speak. Determination had locked his jaw. Guests lined the entryway, whispering the moment they saw me. A few tilted their heads with pity. Others narrowed their eyes, already choosing a side. Madeline had done her work well. Lauren leaned in. Keep walking. Don't respond. The organ music started, and ushers waved people towards their seats. Evan slipped toward a side door where the media screen cables were hidden. Lauren gave him a small nod, the kind that said everything was going according to plan. I took my place near the front. The officiant looked uncomfortable, shifting papers, avoiding eye contact. Someone behind me muttered, "He's really here," as if I'd wandered into a crime scene. Then the doors opened. Madeline stepped through, slowly holding her bouquet with trembling hands, chin tilted low, as if crushed by sorrow. Her dress flowed behind her. She moved down the aisle with tiny, fragile steps that begged for sympathy. Gasps rose from the crowd. A few guests dabbed their eyes. She'd crafted the image perfectly. She avoided looking my way until she reached the altar. When her gaze finally met mine, it wasn't sadness I saw. It was calculation, quick, sharp, controlled. The officiant cleared his throat. "We're gathered here today." He never finished. A loud click echoed through the sanctuary. The oversized screen behind the altar flickered from a slideshow of engagement photos to a black display. A heartbeat later, Evan's file menu appeared in the corner. Guests murmured. Madeline's smile froze. Lauren remained still as stone. Evan's voice came through the speakers. "Play it." The first recording began, Madeline's voice unmistakable. "He's predictable. Just get him to sign it." Her father's answer followed. "After the numbers drop, we move him to assisted living. Fastest way to secure the deed." The sanctuary erupted. A woman in the third row covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Chairs scraped as people stood to get a better look. Madeline stumbled back. "That's fake," she shouted. "This is edited. He's lying to all of you." Another clip cut her off. "Once Harris confirms the payout, he'll get his cut. I told you, Dad, this one is our last investment." Her own laughter filled the room. Several guests gasped. Others pulled out their phones to record. Her father lurched to his feet, face flushed. "Turn that off! You can't use that here!" Evan stepped out from the side aisle, laptop still connected. "Oh, it's playing just fine," he said loudly. Madeline rushed toward him. "Stop it, Evan. I swear, stop this now." He didn't flinch. "This is your voice, Madeline." Two officers stationed discreetly near the back exchanged looks. A prosecutor seated behind them rose with a folder in hand. They'd arrived quietly on Lauren's request, ready for whatever surfaced. More recordings played snippets of laughter, instructions, strategy. The deception unfolded layer by layer. Her father moved toward the side exit, but the officers intercepted him halfway down the aisle. "Sir, we need you to stay where you are." He jerked his arm. "You can't arrest me in front of all these people." One officer replied, "Actually, we can." Madeline tried slipping behind the choir risers, but another officer stepped into her path. "Ma'am, you're coming with us," she screamed. "You can't take me. He set me up. This is all his doing." Her accusations bounced off the walls, falling flat in front of 200 witnesses. The prosecutor addressed the room. "We have grounds to detain both parties for questioning related to attempted fraud and conspiracy involving state land acquisition. Phones rose higher. Voices swelled. The officiant stepped back in shock, clutching his book like a life preserver. I stood frozen. The chaos seemed to spin around me without landing. Evan approached slowly, watching for my reaction. "You okay?" he asked. Not sure I replied. Because in that moment, relief and grief tangled together. Anger for letting it get this far mingled with gratitude for the son who refused to let me drown silently. Lauren touched my arm gently. "You did the right thing by showing up." But the story didn't end in the church. 2 weeks later, we sat in the courtroom. Madeline and her father faced a long list of charges. Midway through testimony, a woman stood in the gallery, mid-40s, trembling but resolute. "Your Honor," she said, "I was engaged to Madeline's father 2 years ago. They tried the same scheme with me, transferring property, pushing for joint ownership. When I refused, they disappeared." The judge allowed her to speak under oath. Her account cracked whatever defense the Grants had left. Jurors leaned forward, expressions hardening. By closing statements, their narrative collapsed completely. The jury returned in less than an hour. Guilty. 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 Sentence recommendations came next, and the judge affirmed each one. Madeline sobbed into her hands as deputies cuffed her father. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. The courtroom bustled with the first ripples of the aftermath. I didn't stay for the commentary. As the judge dismissed us, I rose quietly. Evan reached for his backpack, and Lauren gathered her folders. Neither of them spoke as we walked toward the exit. Before stepping through the doors, I looked once toward the bench, not at Madeline, not at her father. Just at the space where the truth had finally been spoken. Evan and I sat on a bench near the river papers from Lauren stacked between us. The water drifted past in slow currents, while he checked each form with methodical care. Lauren had marked the signature lines with sticky notes, making the final steps feel less overwhelming. I read through the documents one more time, though Evan knew most of the content by memory. He tapped one page. "Lauren said this closes the last of it. After you sign here, there's nothing left they can use." I nodded, uncapping the pen. "Good." He watched me quietly. He'd done that a lot since the trial, waiting for something I hadn't given him yet. A long moment passed before I found the words. "You know, I said when I heard you stand up for me at the church, I realized something I should have realized a long time ago." Evan shifted slightly. "What's that?" "That I've spent years thinking silence was the same as strength. Your mother used to say I avoided everything that mattered. She wasn't wrong." He opened his mouth, but I kept going. I let too many things slide. Let people talk over me. Let decisions get made around me. And then I watched you do the fighting I should have done myself. He folded the papers, trying to maintain composure. "You weren't weak, Dad. You just didn't want to make more trouble." "That's the problem," I replied. "Trouble doesn't disappear. It waits for someone else to pay the price. This time it was you." He lowered his gaze, and the tension that had shadowed him for weeks finally eased a little. "Maybe we both learned something," he said. "You don't have to carry everything alone." We sat there as people passed by, families, joggers, an older man walking his dog, each unaware that the storm that consumed our lives had finally settled. A case summary from the prosecutor rested on top of the pile. It listed every charge: conspiracy, attempted fraud, collusion with a state official. Madeline and her father would spend years in prison. Not a brief sentence, not a negotiated deal, real time. Their accounts were frozen public statements shredded apart by reporters' former friends, distancing themselves one by one. There would be no reconciliation, no last conversation, no attempt at a farewell. Only a final ruling, and the kind of silence that comes after truth hits hard enough to end a story. Evan leaned back. So what now? I go back to work, I said. Things don't fix themselves. And you open up more. Right, I didn't promise anything. Promises hadn't served me well lately. Instead, I focused on the practical decisions waiting for me at the ranch. Hiring a new foreman, repairing the barn roof, reorganizing the grazing rotation, clearing my schedule so I could meet the group of teens Lauren had suggested I mentor. A few days earlier, she'd stopped by the ranch with brochures for a local trades program asking for volunteers. She didn't ask directly, just left the pamphlets on the porch, and mentioned that young people in the area were losing interest in ranch work. The idea stuck. Teaching someone how to manage cattle or repair fences felt like a better use of my time than brooding over the past. Evan noticed the shift. You're planning something. Maybe. That's good. Lauren had given us space since the trial, though she checked in briefly through short messages. No pressure, no commentary. Just enough presence to remind me the world didn't shrink to the worst things that happened in it. I signed the last form and handed the folder to Evan. That's it, he asked. For now. He gathered the papers and slid them into his backpack the same way he had carried every scrap of evidence during the investigation. His shoulders looked lighter now, not because the weight had vanished, but because he no longer carried it alone. He stood and stretched. You ready to go home? I rose, picking up the toolkit we'd brought to the truck earlier. There was a gate hinge waiting for us back at the ranch, and a water trough that needed leveling. Nothing dramatic, just the steady rhythm of a life I'd nearly lost. Evan held the stack of documents against his chest as we walked to the parking lot. The sun dipped lower, casting a soft, even tone across the park. No speeches, no declarations, just two people heading back to rebuild something that had been close to breaking. We reached the truck, loaded the supplies into the bed, and shut the tailgate. Evan climbed in first, sliding the paperwork into the glove compartment. I circled around to the driver's side, started the engine, and eased onto the road without saying anything. He didn't speak either. We didn't need to. The movement itself, heading back to the ranch together, was enough.